Hi, and welcome to the newest edition of the J-Karp Show. I'm J-Karp, and today we're going to kick things off with a recap of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. Okay, congratulations to LA for winning the first Stanley Cup. 10 months of grueling practices, late-night plane rides, being away from the family, and 3 more games a week finally has come to an end. Thank God. Every player's dream in September when training camp begins has become a reality if you're on the LA Kings. Dustin Brown became just the second American-born captain to be instructed by Commissioner Gary Bettman to come and get the Stanley Cup. What transpired was a celebration every hockey fan, regardless of their allegiance, chills. Well, except for the New Jersey Devil fans. Anyway, on Monday, Jeff Carter and Trevor Lewis scored 2 goals apiece to lead the Kings over the Devils 6-1, winning the series 4-2. Goalie Jonathan Quick stopped 17 of the 18 shots he faced, only allowing Adam Henrique's goal near the end of the second period. Quick, who was undoubtedly spectacular throughout not only the Stanley Cup playoffs, but through the entire regular season, I give him a lot of credit. I've actually liked Jonathan Quick. I mean, without him, the Kings honestly would have not won the Stanley Cup. Was awarded the Conn Smythe Trophy after the game as the playoffs MVP. LA head coach also, Darryl Sutter, won his first cup as a player/coach. Sutter was behind the bench of the Flames when they lost the 2004 Cup Finals. He never appeared in the finals as a player during his 8-year playing career with Chicago. In fact, just a couple years ago, I'm gonna mention the player first. Willie Mitchell was the second player to be handed the cup after Captain Dustin Brown. And like I said, in fact, just a couple years ago, Mitchell contemplated retirement due to concussions. This was his 12th year playing hockey. Those are the type of players who you really feel happy for. And don't get me wrong, Martin Brodeur for the New Jersey Devils is a surefire Hall of Famer. But he's won Stanley Cups. He's made it to the top. He's been the king of the mountain. And I feel like with the Kings winning it, it paves a new way for all these other players' careers. And I wish them all the best. I wanted the Blues to win from the very beginning. St. Louis Blues. But we don't all get what we asked for. And, I guess, the Kings swept the Blues, so I guess the better team won. Next up, we have another final championship going on in sports. This time, it's the NBA. And things are really heating up because yesterday Miami tied the series with OKC, heading back to Miami. The first 2 games of the finals have been a dream. The Miami Heat and Oklahoma City Thunder have played to the stage of the finals and to one another, and basketball fans everywhere have delighted in the result. This is already a fantastic series in my opinion, and through 2 games it's incredibly difficult to declare a decisive edge. Now, don't get me wrong, I always poke fun at Heat and Heat fans. I have never hated the Heat. I was not the happiest camper when LeBron left to go to the Heat. But I knew that in the marketing mind, in the player mind, it was smart because he would have more success with D-Wade and Chris Bosh down in Miami than up in Cleveland. So, even Cleveland fans have to understand, there's a strategy to this thing. It's not just, oh, well, shoot, they're from Cleveland, I gotta get the hell out of there. That's what people in Jacksonville say. But with both teams so equal and everything hanging in the balance, even the slightest advantage has the potential to play. But I am here to give my prediction of the NBA Finals. My prediction, it's gonna be hard, but I'm gonna say it. In 6 games, the winners of the NBA Finals, my prediction will be the Oklahoma City Thunder. There, you had it. Quote me on it. J-Karp's prediction for the NBA Finals, Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, before we conclude this episode, it's a pretty lengthy topic I want to discuss, but it is a very important one. It's the suspension of WWE superstar Randy Orton. Recently, Randy Orton was suspended for 60 days, which adds to 90 days also for no competing, for testosterone usage. Ever since his run with Evolution, Randy Orton has become one of the biggest superstars in World Wrestling Entertainment. Undoubtedly. And since essentially being handpicked by Triple H and Ric Flair to be part of the legendary group, Orton has gone on to have what could be considered a Hall of Fame career. He's won the WWE title, the World Heavyweight title, the Intercontinental, the World Tag Team, and the Royal Rumble. And he's main evented WrestleMania. And who cannot forget his match with Mick Foley in Backlash 2004? Oh my God, how in the hell did he survive that? Anyway, in Randy Orton, The Evolution of a Predator, his name of the book, his story past with drugs and alcohol are well documented. But the feeling I got after watching the movie, Randy Orton, The Evolution of a Predator is a movie, I almost thought it was a book, was that he was a different man now. Well, if that were the case, it isn't anymore. So another former world champion also has been suspended, who was suspended in April, Rey Mysterio's. It's troubling for me as a fan to realize it, because little kids watch, I don't like this whole thing about the little kids and watching WWE. Don't get me wrong, it's not like, oh, you can't watch this program because you're a kid. But these kids look up to people like Randy Orton, and when they find out they do drugs, what do you as a parent tell your kid? Oh, he got suspended because he needs some time off. Or do you just say, yeah, he was a druggie. He drugged up so freaking bad you wouldn't even believe it. It's hard to decide things like this. But ever since Chris Benoit, yes, WWE, Chris Benoit, you've heard of him? Don't think so. Ever since Chris Benoit killed his wife, son, and himself, WWE has cracked down on drug usage. And you know what? I'm glad they did. This is a very important thing because people criticize wrestling for all the drug usage in it, because there's a lot of it. I recently read a report on wrestlers suspended in the past year. Surprisingly, one of them was referee Mike Chioda. Now, what the hell does a referee need? Sleeping pills? Because he's out half the time. Anyway. But see, Orton getting suspended was one thing. But when you hear this is going to be surprising. Days after Orton's suspension, Vince McMahon had a little meeting. They had a big meeting up in WWE headquarters. Triple H, one of the main executives in the business now, Vince McMahon, other board of directors. And there was a big incident going on. And McMahon is livid with Orton as he has been so outspokenly indifferent to his suspension, not saying it is a big deal. And there was an unnamed incident that infuriated McMahon, and this led to the recent discussion of Orton not being brought back at all after his suspension. Now I have a friend who, if you say anything to, if it's a rumor, he will give you the exact reason as to why it's just a rumor. I'm going to try and do that. Now, you have Randy Orton rumors of him going to TNA. He will not go to TNA. Bar none, no TNA. Well, I'm not saying it's completely out of the question, but the chances of him going to TNA aren't that good. And honestly, he could think of a lot of other independent companies to go to, but TNA is not really the best business company to go to. Ratings are, well, I would say it's dropping, but considering their ratings are usually bad, what do you expect? But there's also speculation that Orton's passion for the business has diminished after years of being on top. Well, let me ask you this. If that's true, why is it not happening to John Cena? John Cena's been on the top since 2005. But he hasn't let it get to his head. He does all these wonderful things. And I'm not going to get into John Cena's issues with drug usage. But Randy Orton has saved enough money on a high salary to live comfortably for several years without any financial issues with his wife, Samantha. And he's from a wealthy background, so he would likely take an extended break to recharge batteries if they didn't bring him back. This would also help him overcome the numerous injuries he's had over the years, with suggestions that his neck and spine problems are causing his body to break down. So, bottom line, I hope Orton remains with WWE. I hope we get to see him again when he comes back. When he comes back, I hope we see him on WWE programming, and honestly, I think we will. I don't believe that Randy Orton will go to any other wrestling company at this time. But I mean, drugs in WWE, even if you don't watch wrestling a lot, are a very serious incident. Many wrestlers have died under the age of just 40. I mean, Louis Spicolli, who was an ECW wrestler mostly, a little bit in WWE, died at the age of 27. I mean, these wrestlers are dying young. Now, it's sort of slowed down. The rate of death has slowed down because of all these talent wellness programs. They actually, I earlier said that they were stated after Chris Benoit's death. In reality, after Eddie Guerrero's death, they really started to crack down on it because Eddie Guerrero was, once again, a top star in the company, but he died of complications related to drug usage in the past. All the years of drugs, he was sober for years, he was drug-free for years, but the effects of them took its toll. And then with Chris Benoit, now Chris Benoit and WWE is just a distant memory. They've erased all existence of Chris Benoit. So, WWE, I give you credit for cracking down on drug usage, and I'm glad you guys aren't the favoritists that people accuse you of. You are taking this seriously, and I applaud you for that. Because something needs to be done, because wrestlers cannot be dying young. They need to live long, fulfilling lives. Well, that about does it for this edition of the J-Karp Show. You can find me on Facebook at both J-Karp's NFL Updates and the J-Karp Show as well. Follow me on Twitter at JKarpSportsFan1. Well, that about does it for this edition of the J-Karp Show. I will catch you next week.